Esplanade, Theatre and Audience Services Workshop Level 1. The information in this slideshow will help you to understand the usher role at the Esplanade. We have a vision statement. It is that we are delivering value through exceptional public service. When you volunteer, you'll need a parking pass to park in the underground parkade. Evening and weekend passes are for ushers. Pick up an event pass from the guest services desk so you can park in the parkade. Never park in the outside service lot during weekday business hours. It's for pass holders only. The outside lot is free after 6 p.m. and on weekends, but the parkade is never free. Why do ushers need training? Well, this is the best way to make sure everyone learns the same information. If we're not all learning the same things, we may not work as a team in an emergency situation. The primary reason for having ushers is for evacuation. Seating and ticket scanning is secondary. What's expected of ushers? They're expected to dress as required by Esplanade policy, be on time and be quiet for the briefing, learn the position, both loading and evacuating, investigate the evacuation routes, ask if they don't know something, interact with the public in a positive way, treat others respectfully, do the job the supervisor asks, and fulfill annual training and special training requirements. The front of house staff has agreed that it works best to have 12 to 14 ushers for a full show and a separate assigning of greeters and gallery volunteers. There are times when volunteers who work the tough shifts are given opportunity to work their choice for a popular show. This is the points system. It's one of the ways to reward them for coming out to work things like the 4-day dance competitions. Phone list volunteers are called with a few shifts and the rest can sign up online. If you can get used to using the website, you'll have much better access to volunteer positions. The website should be the main way that you sign up and communicate with the other ushers. There's a message board where you can post messages for other volunteers. There are 2 ways to sign up for shifts. One is the calendar. And then there's also using the unfilled shifts tab. Note, when you see the black box, that means you are signed up. You can choose to see shifts by date. The Media tab takes you to online training videos and documents. And here you will see main theater training videos, slideshows, and the handbook. And this is a good way to become familiar with the position duties, and it's also great as a refresher if you haven't done it for a while. When something serious happens or almost happens, please report it to the front of house staff as quickly as possible. A report will be done for Health and Safety Department. So all accidents or incidents, including violence, or any situation that has the potential to become violent must be reported immediately to the front of house, who will follow up. Earplugs may be necessary for some concerts. The decibel levels are monitored and kept at a safe level, but earplugs are provided for volunteers who may wish to use them. Ushers and greeters need to present a professional image so that patrons will know who they are. If we have to direct people in an emergency situation, they must be able to quickly recognize the volunteers and follow their instructions. So which style will represent our Esplanade Theatre? It'll be the uniform one. Black jeans are okay, but remember, faded black is actually gray, not black, so not appropriate. This shows some of the things that we don't wear for a shift and what is appropriate footwear. And note that the toes are closed, and that's a WCB regulation. So what do you wear? It doesn't have to be a long sleeve button-down shirt. 3/4 length sleeves are okay as long as they fall below the elbow. And it can be like a t-shirt. It doesn't have to be button up as long as it's got sleeves. And again, black jeans are okay as long as they look like black pants. We provide the vest. The ushers wear the black one. Greeters And gallery volunteers wear burgundy vests. And new this year, education volunteers have navy vests. Front of house is always your go-to person. You'll soon get to know the evening staff. One of them will be out for each of the shows. There are different positions and roles within each position, but all are important and necessary. How we tell a patron they can't take their drink outside with them at an intermission can be done with a smile. A comment such as, "I can watch that for you while you're outside," works really well. Disney and WestJet have done a great job of treating their customers as guests. A favorite example of mine from a few years back is Air Canada flight staff telling their customers that they have an absolutely no smoking policy. WestJet staff said it a little better using humor. Flight crews had been known to tell their customers that the smoking section is out on the left wing, but to hang on because it gets very windy out there. It's hard to get defensive when you are amused. A smile says, "We welcome you." When you put on the Usher vest, you become an insider, someone in the know, and patrons will want to know what you know about the group, or the concert, or the Esplanade. During a show, what do the ushers do? Can they actually watch some of the performance? Ushers are allowed to take turns inside the theater. They would stand or sit on the stools at the back, and if the very back row doesn't have the seats sold, they can sit in those, but only if there aren't patrons sitting in them. All ushers take turns in the theater. So the time that they get to go in varies from 10 to 20 minutes inside the theater. And those times are agreed upon by the ushers on each side of the main floor or up on the second floor. And then they trade off with one another. Ushers take turns inside the theater so everyone gets to see some of the show. And everyone takes a turn outside the theater, so there's always at least one volunteer for each side of the main theater lobby and one in the second floor lobby. If there is an issue with an usher not taking a turn, please report it immediately to the front of house. Seeing parts of a show is a perk, but it's not the main reason you should be here. Occasionally, someone will sign up because they want to see shows for free, and they usually quit when they find out that that's not a good reason to usher. Ushers in the lobby during the performance are responsible for checking tickets, taking patrons into the theater, and connecting them silently with an inside usher for seating. They keep track of time and switching in with the ushers inside the theater, so everyone gets a chance to watch a bit of the performance. And the ushers in the lobby are also watching that patrons don't take their drinks outside the door once the greeters have left their position. The usher shift begins when it's scheduled, 1 hour prior to the performance, with a briefing to assign positions, discuss particulars of the event, and an evacuation walkthrough. Every volunteer must attend the briefing and the run-through. Front of house chooses one exit route each shift to take the volunteers out, so they're not in doubt where to go. So your shift time that you are given is the time that the briefing is going to begin, so that's when you need to be here. If a volunteer arrives late, front of house will ask them to wait and arrange a convenient time to assign a position and go over the requirements. There's not enough time to repeat the briefing for latecomers. Walking out to the muster station every shift via the front of house's chosen route helps to develop something called procedural memory. This will be very important if you have to direct people out in a stressful emergency situation. No volunteers have been here long enough that they're exempt from the briefing and evacuation drill. Positions will not be assigned if the briefing is not attended. Theater doors open approximately 30 minutes before the show starts, once the techs have given the house over to our front of house. The shifts are approximately 4 to 5 hours in length and end when the audience has left the building. Your purpose while inside the theater during a performance is to monitor the audience to ensure that no one has difficulties, and if they do, to assist them as soon as possible. Things like spills, if there's a drink spilled during the show, notify front of house and or the facility worker so it can be cleaned up during intermission or after the show. Any problems, concerns, or feedback must be communicated to the front of house at each performance as quickly as they occur. Volunteer comments on the message board or clipboard are quite welcome. When you use door stops, please return them at the end of the night. Some can be kept on the main floor. Remember, never ever place yourself in a dangerous position or situation. Send someone for the front of house manager immediately. The duty station cards describe what each position is to do in the event of an evacuation. The write-up from every card can be found in the handbook. So if you need to look those up, if you want to get some memory refreshers, go check the handbook. The cards also describe the alarms. There's a stage 1 and a stage 2. The cards also describe the muster station, and there's a map. One set for the balcony and one set for the main floor. You'll notice that some cards have red outlines. These positions are more critical to fill because of their evacuation duties. If there are not enough ushers to fill all positions, it's very important that the red outlined cards are filled first. The evacuation plan has been designed with these positions in mind. Positions are assigned so that the front of house feels comfortable that all areas are covered. Never switch positions with another volunteer unless you have the front of house permission. Volunteers need to be on time. You are being counted upon by the front of house and your team. If you are delayed or have to cancel a shift, please get in touch with the Esplanade as soon as you can. If you need to leave early or you can't work a certain position, please arrive 10 minutes early and notify the house manager before your shift. Don't switch positions without talking first to the front of house. Seldom do we have issues, but when we do, there's a procedure to follow. Some examples of a behavioral issue: refusing to stay in position. Something like greeters have to be at their position before the show, during intermission, 15 minutes after the show starts, 15 minutes after intermission has gone back in, and after the show as well, because people could be taking drinks out. Ushers need to stay in their position, especially during intermission. They have to be in their position because people are going in and out of the theater. So that's not a time to talk to your friends. Nasty remarks about patrons or fellow volunteers. There is nothing sadder than when a volunteer overhears someone saying something rude about them. And the same with patrons. We have no right to say anything nasty about one another. Unkind remarks about the city, who is basically your employer, even though they don't pay you, or the production, those are not acceptable. Refusal to leave the theater during performances is also not acceptable. If you're tapped on the shoulder and someone is ready to come in, if there's a discrepancy between who's going out, you need to all go out and discuss it in the lobby rather than just refuse to go out. Arguing with the front of house, other volunteers, patrons, or customers is just never acceptable while on duty. Refusing to wear Esplanade-approved attire for shifts is also not going to be accepted either. So in those kinds of situations, as outlined in our Policy and Procedures Manual, the front of house will let the volunteer know immediately that there's a problem. If improper behavior continues, the volunteer coordinator will contact the volunteer to discuss the cause of the issue and remind the volunteer of the Esplanade's expectations and discuss alternative solutions, which might be another position or not volunteering if the requirements can't be met. In the interest of maintaining a professional image for the Esplanade, please do not eat or drink in public view or in public areas, including the theater. This applies to pre-show receptions, intermissions, and post-show events, and including any snacks you bring with you. The front of house will schedule breaks once the performance begins, so you can enjoy your snack in the second floor coat check area. Coffee or tea may be consumed at tables in the public areas. There is a hot and cold water cooler for volunteers, and volunteers are also welcome to get coffee from the bar only after the show has gone in and there are no longer patrons at the bar. And this is also dependent on there being a pot of coffee made by the bar staff. Emergency procedures. The stage 1 alarm will sound up to 5 minutes, enabling us to move into our positions to get ready to evacuate the audience. When the stage 1 alarm sounds, go immediately to your duty station. Wait for stage 2 of the alarm before evacuating. What's a duty station? That's your position during an evacuation and the responsibilities that correspond with that position. Remember, the first alarm will not be heard in the main theater and can be detected by its slow, spaced-out alarm sound and the activation of the strobe lights. At this time, all doors should be closed. Never prop or tie doors open during an emergency. The doors will push open for patrons to exit, but they must close again to protect each area from fire or smoke. Stage 2 alarm will sound in the entire building and can be detected by its rapid, short alarm sound. During stage 2 alarm, the fire curtain falls automatically between the stage and the audience. We will start evacuating as soon as this alarm sounds. Ensure your tone of voice is calm when speaking to others. If someone does not obey your instructions, do not argue with him or her. Continue with your duties. Please do not chase after that person or abandon your station. Remember to note a description of that person to report to the professional rescue team. Let the professionals do their job. The main theater evacuation video is on the volunteer website. The studio and the terrace evac videos are also on there. After your duty station has been totally cleared, take a look around, make sure everyone's out and all doors are closed, then get yourself out and proceed to the muster station. Our job is to calmly clear the building and then leave. You should be familiar with all the evacuation routes. That's okay if you need to take a walk through, come a little bit early, and just walk right out the evacuation route. Ask a more experienced volunteer or ask front of house to lead you if you don't know, as long as they're not in the middle of their other duties. And remember, if you have questions when you're volunteering for the theater, your front of house supervisor is your go-to person. Thank you and enjoy the show.